name is Sean Ledgerwood. I live in Cornwall, and one of my passions is starting to be pinball. I guess how I first got into it when I was a kid, I grew up in the 80s. So it was just at the time when arcade games were coming online, but before that, there really wasn't anything computer related. I remember my first Pong game, and that was, amazing, where you could actually put something on TV and play it. But before that, it was pinball machines. And so I used to go to the arcades, and I would love the pinball machines for some reason. I guess it was the colors of them, the interesting in the physics of it, that sort of thing. So I always liked it when I was a kid. The way it started was kind of interesting. I curl too, and curl competitively. I come from a curling family. My father was quite a competitive curler. He went to the Briar 4 times. So as I was a kid growing up, he was always curling and quite often going to the Briar, and it was a big deal, right? I mean, it's pretty neat to go to something like that. So, when you have a father that's quite successful, you kind of tend to follow along, although my kids did not even a bit. But so I followed in his footpaths and started curling too. As I got older, I went to university, kind of get out of it for a little while, and got back into it, and ended up winning the first time in 2004, and Dad was actually our coach. So he had retired from competitive curling at that point, but it was pretty neat to go to a Briar with him. It was just a fabulous event. I mean, it gives you a bit of a picture into how people, or how professional athletes live their life. For one little week, I was in there, with these other 10 teams, and we were the focus of the show. And it's bizarre coming from PEI, where you go to work every day and do your thing, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into a stadium where there's 10,000 people watching what you guys are doing, and it's pretty cool. And a lot of people ask, well, are you nervous? But as soon as you walk out there, you have this 1 minute where you're looking around and you're just saying, wow, look at all these people. I can't believe they're here to watch what we're doing. I mean, it's just a game. But then you throw that first rock, and all of a sudden, and it was really neat sort of feeling where your world stopped at the boards, and what was happening beyond that didn't even come into your mind. You'd hear people clapping, but you got so focused that was your world, just that inside those borders. First time I won the PEI Provincial Championship, when we went to the Briar, it was in Saskatoon, and we went, and in the Players Lounge there was an actual pinball machine. So Skip and I, Mike Goody at the time, we were playing that all the time in our off time. And the thing about the Briar at that time is, when you came back from it, the teams actually got money. You got prize money. So I had a little bit of money left over, like $2,000 or $3,000, and I thought, what am I going to do? First time I ever went to the Briar, should get something that I'll remember it by. And just at that time, I started looking at pinball machines again, and they weren't very popular. Didn't know anybody in PEI that had one, and so I thought, well, maybe I'll take some of that money and see if I can find a pinball machine. So I did in Moncton, found one, talked to the guy. He came over. I knew nothing about them, didn't know how to maintain them, what to do, anything. And this would have been 2004 sort of range. So there wasn't as much online about pinball machines then. So it was basically, you had to look at books, right? And there were no books of pinball machines. What I started doing is, it came working, so that was good. Played it, but if you know pinball machines at all, they break all the time. Just continuously, you're doing something to them. So, every little time something would happen, I'd pop the machine open, look at it and say, well, what's going on this time? And usually it was mechanical issues, which I'm fairly good at, so I could figure that out. So that went on, and I had the one pinball machine for probably 10 years, 9-10 years. And I don't know what got me really into it. I guess part of it was there's more of a niche market now. Pinball, from my understanding, was always sort of an arcade type thing, people putting them on location, making money from them. It's kind of moved away from that. You still see the odd one in arcades, but mostly it's home collectors like myself that will have them in their house. As early as like 7 or 8 years ago, there was only one manufacturer of pinball machines, Stern Pinball. And now it's starting to build up momentum again, and it's still a niche sort of market. But the community, there is a definite community now, and you see it all over the States, all over the US, Europe, Canada, everywhere. You see it everywhere. There's more information around. There's websites that you can go to, there's online forums. And so I started getting interested in reading them, and kind of became a bit of a passion, or probably more of an obsession, where I decided, hey, I've got to do more of this. So it's been really good that way. I've met a few friends. There's tournaments all through the world, pinball tournaments, right? And it's just like, wow, that's crazy. There's actually a league in Nova Scotia and Halifax that I went over to this year just to see how it is. And some people, this guy in Bedford, I went in and he's got like 15 machines, and they're all, $8,000 to $10,000. And so you're thinking, this, people really have some money, and this guy has $150,000 of pinball machines. But it was neat to be able to go. You're just clowning around, you're playing in this tournament, playing all these machines you never see. So it's a great way to meet people. And I've met a few people just either helping them with pinball machines, or just getting together, playing a few games that I would have never met otherwise. So it was pretty neat that way. One of the machines that I traded, I guess, was with the guy in Moncton. And so he has quite a few, and he's an operator, so he has pinball machines all through New Brunswick. And at about the same time, he sold one to a guy in PEI too, which he started having issues with. So the guy from Moncton called me and said, do you mind going over and taking a look, right? Maybe you can help him, maybe you can't. So, I go over, meet this guy, help him with his machine, fixed it for him. It was just some minor things. You do learn some skills, and some electronic stuff I'm not so timid of taking apart and trying to change them, because as you start looking at like the boards on pinball machines, they're not that much different than a lot of stuff that's around. I mean, you don't want to get into like a camera or something that's so small you can't touch it, but different things like lights and that sort of thing. Yeah, you probably can just replace the resistor or transistor, whatever that's wrong with it, might work again. Not scared to try that sort of stuff anymore. But again, helped him, got another call from somebody else, you want to go help him, so there's another person I've met. So now I've met 3 people just through pinball, 2 of them helping them, and then I met their friends. So it fingers out, and you start meeting a whole bunch of new people, and people you didn't even know that had a pinball machine in their basement. And so it's neat that way, just meeting the people. And to me, it's just, if I can help them, great, but it's more just to meet new people. And I like to see people have machines that are working too. I know how frustrating it would be to have something that big in your basement that doesn't turn on, right? So if I can help somebody, sure I will. So I hate to say much about this, but all I know is it tells me if the power going through a chip or a pin is either high or low. So I can tell from talking to people where it should be. So what I've been having problems with is this particular pin here. And it's actually, I wasn't getting any reading from it before, but you see how it's green? So I was having a problem from this little pin over here runs this 4th pin. So I wasn't having any power at all coming to it. So I'm making some progress where it's actually, oh no, sorry, I was on the wrong one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there, that pin is not showing any light right now. Wow. So I'm having a problem somewhere over here or here. don't know quite what it is yet. So back to the board with that one. The place that we're in now, this used to be a daycare. So of course, when there was kids here, couldn't have a pinball machine. And I was just waiting for the time that my wife would close the daycare and I could start populating a little area down here of my own sort of stuff. So I got the one pinball machine, started looking at more, and as I was kind of, building up the obsession again, I decided, well, pinball machine's not enough, maybe I'll build an arcade machine. So I started looking online, how would I do that? So I got plans together, I read, and I actually built one. So now I have a pinball machine and an arcade machine. One of my curling friends, after we went to the Briar the second time, he came to me in the off season and said, there's a guy in town selling a few pinball machines, are you interested? Sure, we'll go take a look. So we went downtown into Charlottetown, and this guy had 3 pinball machines, and we didn't need 3, so we bartered and talked to him, and we ended up buying one each. Neither of them worked, and here I was bringing home a pinball machine that didn't work, didn't know how to maintain them, how to fix them, what's wrong with it. So I would spend hours. There's a really good website called Pinside, and anybody who knows anything about pinball is probably reading that. And this particular website, there's several, there's a couple Canadian ones too, but Pinside is the go-to website. And it has a map of every pinball person that's actually on there. So you can go, click on, see which pinball machines they have, message them, typical forum type thing. What I quickly found is if I had a problem, somebody else had that problem, and it's online. Constantly I'm asking people, and it amazes me because I'll put a question out there and some guy from maybe Australia will respond back, but he'll keep the conversation going until I get through my issue, which to me just kind of blows me away. Why do people do that, right? It's great that they do, but what possesses people to help? And I guess that's when you find a community, and this just happens to be pinball, that people like helping other people in that community. This never used to be there. This is a new, this is the generation we're in now, anything is online, but that was never the case before. So now I can start looking, figuring it out. So it only took me a couple weeks to get that one fixed up. So now I have 2 pinball machines, an arcade machine. My wife says, okay, enough, that's enough. So I said, well, what if I built another arcade machine? It wouldn't cost me much. So she said, fine, whatever, go ahead. So now I'm up to 2 pinball machines, 2 arcade machines. She's starting to look downstairs and thinking, you're building a man cave, aren't you? And that really what I was doing. What happened next, I guess, is I started looking online for ones to buy. I found one in Bedeck, I guess, an old machine from 1967. It used to be on the ferries going back and forth to New Brunswick. It's just a flat playfield, right? And very simple, just a couple pop bumpers. Those are the ones where the ball hits and it shoots it off like crazy. Some targets, and that's probably, and maybe a little spinner. It's a little thing that you shoot through and it'll spin and give points. That was probably it, right? You get into the newer ones, they may have multiple play fields. They have spots where the balls go into the field and then get thrown out. They may have toys, like on Last Action Hero here, has a crane that moves, catches a ball, captures it, brings it back. You've got ramps going everywhere. So they get more and more complex on the play field, but also underneath, they get way more complex too, where they get just, it's miles of wires in there, right? And you're trying to figure out what they are. So it's transitioned from, just a straight backboard with numbers. It transitioned to ones that had letters on it, into LCD screens, into video screens. And, some people are saying, well, what's next? Well, can you add VR to it? Who knows? There's a couple types of pinball machines. There's electromechanical, which is all relays and switches, no computer boards or anything. That was the first generation. And then it goes into solid state where you actually have computer boards. So the first 2 I had computer boards, that. But this was a jump into electromechanical, where it was different. It was just all relays. So I had to learn all that. So I learned that. It took me about 6 months to fix that one up. Traded that for another one, traded my original one for something else. So now I'm starting to move the collection around. How I ended up having more of them is the same guy that we bought the 2 machines together, my curling friend. He came to me and said, Saturday morning, he said, I'm moving my apartment. I never got a chance to fix that one. And do you want it? And I said, well, yeah, sure. I mean, and he said it's not even close to being fixed. There's a lot of things wrong with it. And I said, sure, I'll take it. I'll try it. And that actually, the one behind me, Genie, that came into my life. So I spent another 4 or 5 months on that. Then I traded another one, got another one, bought one. So now I'm up to 5 machines in various states of working. And what I've done is, what I've typically done is got machines that don't work and they're older. And what I try to do is repair it and flip it for something that's not working again, but a little bit newer. So what I'm trying to do is my sort of goal is to get a bunch of machines that are a little more recent, because I can't go out. You can go buy a brand new one right now. It's probably going to cost you 10 to 15,000 Canadian. So way beyond my price range. So what I'm slowly trying to do is flip them, older ones for new ones, and keep doing that. I'd like to have down here, I think in the end, probably 4 machines, and the 2 arcade machines would probably be pretty good, maybe 5. I've got one now that's called Last Action Hero. It's actually where I want to get to. Like, it's 1993, it has a bunch of different options on it, probably won't mean much to you, but it's things like shaker motor, and it actually shakes the machine in certain situations, and it has a soundtrack, and it has voice call-outs and that sort of thing. So I'm trying to get to that vintage sort of, mid to late 90s. So I've got 1 out of 4 or 5 right now. So I'm trying to build up to get to that. And I'm slowly getting there. So, I started with one that was 1980, and I eventually flipped that for something that's 1987, right? Didn't cost me all that much money. So if I can keep doing that over time, and as I say, I like working on them too. So I find it relaxing, although sometimes I want to pull whatever hair I've left out. But still, it's kind of like a puzzle. Like I've explained it to a lot of people, where it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You get a whole bunch of pieces, they're not put together, but then you slowly get a piece here and there, and it starts looking like something. At the end of the day, you've got a picture. And in my situation, I've got a pinball machine that actually you can play and people can come over and have fun with.
I am the Black Knight.
Most nights I come down, I turn them on, play a couple games, my family will come down. Anytime my family has friends over, like I have 2 daughters, they'll always gravitate in here, play a few games, kick around. I doubt there's many other people that they know that have them, so it's kind of neat. It's a sort of a novelty to come in and play them. So they play it, we play it as a family, I have friends over. It's a good time that way, I guess. I'm now delving into really deep computer board repair, which for me is, never did that before. So now I've got this big computer board, and I'm looking, what's wrong with this online? Well, try this, try that. So I'm replacing components, I'm learning how to solder, I'm learning how to piece these and diagnose them. So it's a totally different ballgame again. So it's just learning and learning. So it's fun to learn. I equate it to people, they look at it and say, well, why pinball machines? Well, you're nuts. Why do you spend your time with that? And I just tell them, well, how many people spend their time fixing up old cars? It's the exact same thing, just a different medium, right?
Give me your money.
Be the Black Knight.